My name's Simon Hogg, and I'm here today with the composer, Stephen Roberts, to talk about his new piece, The Other Side of Silence. It's going to receive its first performance on Sunday the 31st of October at the Spa Centre in Leamington. Stephen, can you tell us about the piece and why you wrote it?
Well, firstly, you asked me to, so that's an easy one. But you phoned me up, I remember I was in my allotment, and I was very excited to write something that would not only feature a really good brass band, but also that community members could join in as well. So that was the brief, and it started as a short, almost like a fanfare type piece, because that was the brief. But because of COVID, and it got delayed, so it turned into something a little bit more ambitious, and it eventually ended up as a 14-minute work, which can be played either on its own as a test piece for a single band, or can embrace a community band as well. So that's what it's going to be. The title, The Other Side of Silence, is from George Eliot's Middlemarch, and it seemed to express to me at that time the notion of coming out of COVID and the lockdown, coming through so we could celebrate music once more, and that's really what the piece is about.
Tell us about the creative process. You say about the words and the text, but musically, how did you start the piece?
Well, yes, it's always interesting, isn't it, how one starts a piece, but this particular one, it actually just started. I had an idea in my head, which I played on the horn actually, put my horn out, and I had a sort of idea to create a motif and a sort of mode, if you like, which I would base the original fanfare on. And then as it developed, a sort of narrative started, as if though something was blithe, the idea of nothing much happening, just the world being as it is, but then something malevolent coming along and changing everything as we knew it, and how we can come out of that. And so I made it into a set of variations, so each variation takes on a different aspect of the initial horn motive, if you like.
You've always had this amazing facility for writing in various styles. You could pastiche any style or do an arrangement. But how does a composer find an individual voice?
Yes, that's a difficult question. I mean, I think it's something you always strive for, and I think I spent a lot of time, as you say, doing different styles as part of a sort of what you might call it's a pragmatic, because you're commissioned doing a certain style. And I remember when I did my PhD, I had to justify all the different styles. I called it pluralism. And I think I am more developing my own voice now. I think it just takes time, because I started sort of composing comparatively late, so I've done a lot of arranging, but composition is something, my own voice I think is taking shape more now.
I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, there are composers who started off as being brass players. You think of Holst and Malcolm Arnold. Is that a help or a hindrance, having another career which perhaps people associate you with?
I think it's becoming less so, but I think it has been in the past. I know I found it difficult because you get pigeonholed as a player, and it's very hard to sort of break into that world, because it just is. But I think these days it seems to be becoming more accepted, as it was, of course, back in classical days. I mean, you would have composers playing, and romantic times too, but for some reason in the 20th century, I think it's because we have so many different types of music going on, and you've got to specialise a lot, and if you don't, you upset lexicographers and the media and things.
Sure. Do you come from a musical family?
No, both my parents were artists, painters, so I suppose I was always brought up to be creative, to use that rather.
Didn't you have a rather interesting first trumpet teacher?
Oh yes, I did, yes, of course. My first music teacher at school was Sir Harrison Burgess.
Wow.
Yes.
Was he Sir Harry in those days?
He wasn't, no. I think it was his first job, and he was a clarinetist, of course, and he started me on the trumpet, and he used to write me little exercises and pieces, and then he suggested I swap to the horn. There's a rather sort of funny story. I remember he brought something for me to play. I don't know how old I was, I'm supposed to be about 11 or 12. And he said, "Can you play that?" And I sort of had a fist to it, and he says, I'll tell Barry Tuckwell, my 12-year-old student, because he said it was too difficult to play, because it was a piece being done by the London Sinfonietta at the time. Barry Tuckwell said it was impossible. I think I must have just been lucky.
and you're now Professor of Music at the Royal Kneller School of Music. You're the least likely person I'd imagine to have a career in the military. What's that like?
Oh, well, it's very interesting actually. I mean, I do enjoy it. My actual title is Professor of Orchestration, so that's quite good because I also teach arranging composition as well. And I do find you learn so much from teaching. And of course, you know, I used to teach the horn and things, and I learned a lot from that. But then, you know, going into a more composing career, it's helped me an awful lot to learn about myself. But they're mature students, so they call you sir as well, which makes it better.
That's nice. That's always nice. We spent a lot of time travelling around the country, around the world, playing together. Do you miss playing? Do you miss the actual camaraderie of playing with other people?
Oh yes, definitely, yes. I mean, you do, even if you're conducting, you're at a distance, I think. Playing, you're all together, and then you get that wonderful gallows humour, if you like. You can all gang up against the conductor or the composer. But if you're composing or conducting, you're sort of more, you actually don't often know if things are being played, so sometimes you've no idea, so you do get divorced from what's going on. So I have taken up the horn again. In fact, I'm playing a concerto in December, which I'm not quite sure whether I should accept it or not, but I'm actually looking forward to it, so we'll see how that goes.
Steve, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and we all look forward to the concert on the 31st of October in Royal Leamington Spa. 2 brass bands, the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire Band and also the Shirley Brass Band coming together. So, 2 conductors or 1 conductor?
2 conductors, yes. We've got Ian Porthouse, who's marvellous conducts the Birmingham Conservatoire, and also the well-known Tredegar Band, and Tom Stoneman, who's going to be conducting the Shirley Band.
Stephen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.